Hey guys, I have got a fun little page in my traveler's notebook for you today. Coffee, again, I know I'm on a bit of a roll. I picked up the March add-on kit from Citrus Twist for myself because it is full of all of these gorgeous stamp market papers. I just love this kit. It's so gorgeous. As soon as I saw it, I had to have it. And as soon as it arrived, I had to use it. So that's basically the only thing I'm working with today. I've already made myself a photo collage. You can see there it's a full page traveler's notebook collage of all of my latest coffee photos. I just went through my camera roll and picked out a bunch of those and created a collage in Photoshop to cover up an entire page. And I'm going to do something a little bit different today. This is definitely not going to be one of those kind of less is more pages. It's going to be a more is more page. But I'm just starting by picking out one of the more kind of basic patterns from the kit, this lovely black and white stripe, just to cover up the left hand side of this page. These papers are quite a sort of heavyweight card, so when I use them in my traveler's notebook like this, especially to cover up a whole page like this one here, I do want to make sure that that is stuck down really well, especially because this page I'm doing is actually the last page of my notebook. It's right at the back, so there is kind of a little bulk around the spine there, and I just find with the double-sided tape rather than my tape runner, it's going to make sure that that is all adhered down really well. It's not going to peel up, especially down the sort of center here. Now I'm not going to stick down my photo just yet because I have this idea for creating a lot of different layers on this page, and so I'm not sure quite how those layers are going to attach just yet, but I'm thinking that I may well attach some of them behind the photo. So for now I'm just leaving that while I trim down this kind of cut apart sheet. This is a really beautiful paper and perfect way to add a little bit of journaling to my page. You know, I'm not a huge journalist, so anytime I can get some sort of prompt like this, it really does work for me. So I picked out the one that says highlights. I mean, they all have a fairly generic kind of sentiment at the top of them. I picked that one because it was pink and I want to add a lot of color to this page as well, which is another reason that I kept the left hand side black and white, because this side is going to be an absolute explosion of color. So like I said, I wanted to create some layers, and I'm going to do that with a few different folded papers. So here's the first layer that I'm thinking of. I trimmed down this pattern paper, beautiful pink with the orange spot, and I just folded a little flap at the top because that's how I'm going to adhere this. It means I'll still be able to lift all the layers up and see everything that's underneath. And I was very glad that I did not stick that photo down to start off with. So I've trimmed it so it's slightly narrower than my page, than my photo. I do want to be able to see all the different layers in one go. So it's slightly narrower than both the photo and that highlights journaling spot. The other thing I'm going to do, the little journaling spot, is add a little coffee cup. I pulled out a few of my coffee cup dies. And I don't want to mislead you, those are all of my coffee cup dies. I don't have like a stack of them sitting anywhere. So the die that I'm using right now is from Rosie Studios. I will leave links to anything that I can down in the description box for you. But basically what I did is ran this die through my machine 3 times. So I die cut it from white cardstock for a base. I die cut just the top part from some gold metallic cardstock for the lid. And then I cut a third one so that the middle portion of this coffee cup was going to be from the green pattern paper, and then I just glued them all together, and I've got this really fun little layered die that I am going to use for my journaling spot. I did cut out the little heart from the inside of the coffee cup, and you can see I just added some washi tape to the back there so that I could stick the heart into the inside, and that gives me just a little embellishment to add onto here. I just ran the journaling spot straight through my typewriter. I had placed the coffee cup down to start off with to give myself an outline of where not to type so that I could make sure that this sits on here. The reason I've done that is because this layer, this flat, is only just short of the edge of the photo. I don't want anything to stick out too far off the edge. It does all need to fit on there, otherwise it will make the book really hard to shut and there'll be bits sticking out of there. Now I layered all of those together with a little bit of the gold polka dot washi tape from the kit, which is again really beautiful. And before I went ahead and adhered everything, I've decided to work on some of the other layers for this because I do want to do more than just this one. And given how lucky I was that I didn't stick the first one down, I've decided to carry that theme on, and I'm gonna play with all of my layers before I start sticking stuff down. I'm just going through the die cut pack. There are a lot of fun tags in there, and I'm just pulling out anything that I think I might use. There's a lot of things in here, but I did pull out that die cut tag that says create. I thought that was kind of fun. At this point I don't know whether I'll use it or not, but I'm gonna leave it out so I can just be reminded that that's what I was thinking of. I decided I definitely had to add some sort of sequin shaker to this page because it's been a while since I've used some sequins, and if ever a page needed sequins, it's this kind of coffee one. What I did was cut down the packaging from the kit. Might as well use what I've got here. I trimmed down the packaging to create this little envelope sort of packet thing here. I just stitched around the 3 sides with my sewing machine. And then I'm just going to add some of the sequin mix that I made to match this collection. Then what I'm going to do is stitch along the top and then divide up this sort of sequin packet into 4 quarters, just stitching along there. It's literally just to make sure that all of the sequins don't drop down to the bottom and they stay sort of equally spread along the page. And now that I feel like I've got most of my layers done, I'm gonna start adhering things. So I did just stitch that sequin packet onto my photo, and then I'm gonna use the folded flap that I created from this piece right at the start. I am going to attach that under the photo. It just means that I'm not adding too much bulk at the top here because I don't want this page to be super bulky. It is the last page in this book, so that is not going to be too much of a problem, but I'm just trying to be cautious of that. Now I do love that little tag that I pulled out, the create one. I do want to add some sort of layer for that to adhere to. I didn't know how else to sort of attach it there. I could have just, I guess, just stitched it straight onto that layer there, but I do want to add one more, and I really love this floral pattern. I couldn't decide whether I enjoyed it on top of all these layers or not. The simplistic side of me was like begging me just to use the plain pink side. You can see me fighting with myself there about it, but actually in the end I'm gonna go with the floral because I love it. It's such a bold and beautiful bright pattern, and I really just love the mix of patterns that I'm creating on this page. That's what I kind of was after, is like a cacophony of different colors and patterns, and I think that's what I end up achieving. Now I use this banner punch board just to punch a little pennant shape into the bottom of my paper. You definitely do not need a punch board to do that. You could totally use scissors. My eyes are always a bit crap at doing that sort of thing, so the punch board definitely helps me to make sure that everything's even. And I've added the same sort of flap thing at the top there. You can see me, I'm still fighting it. Give it up, Diane, just use the florals. But that does gonna give me a base to stick my tag onto. I figured at this point, if I'm gonna go overboard, I might as well go overboard with the layers. So I have used another one of those coffee cup dies that I pulled out and just cut out an outline. I'm sorry, I can't remember the brand of this one, but like I said, I will leave a link to it down below in the description box. And again, I just used my sewing machine just to stitch that straight onto that sequin pocket, just to create another layer under there. And then I can go ahead and start attaching all of these things. So I've got my sequin packet there. I'm just going to use some double-sided adhesive tape again, just to stick all of these layers down. Still fighting myself, but here I go. I'm about to commit to the floral pattern, and I'm so glad I did because it's so fun. That's all of my layers basically, so I can adhere this photo down onto the page now. And again, I've got a lot of stuff attached to this photo, so I want to make sure that it is super secure. I'm going to use a lot of double-sided tape and try and line that up nice and straight. It is slightly shorter, narrower than my page, just because I knew I was going to end up with a lot of bulk on here, and I want to give myself enough room sort of at the edges and the margins just for all of the pages to sit flat. I lined it up against the outside edge first, and then you can see it gives me a little bit of room in the middle there. But that is all of my layers. I want to do just a tiny little bit more embellishing. I still do love the idea of using a tag on here. I just changed my mind about whether to use the create one or not, or one of these sort of plainer tags, because I have that bold sort of busy pattern, but it is white based, and so when you put down the create tag, it does take up a lot of that floral pattern, but you also can't really see the actual die cut piece. So in the end, I'm just gone with this plain tag. I did trim the bottom of it just so it doesn't cover up too much of my floral. I added another little tag sort of tickety thing from in that die cut pack, and then I'm going to carry on and just cut apart some of this cut apart sheet. I was sort of thinking at this point that because I had added one tag to one of my layers, I wanted to add the second tag over here onto the left hand side. I am starting to think more about this side of the page now and how I'm going to balance out something that is so busy on one side with something that is so simple on the other. So I've trimmed out that tag, and again I've trimmed it down just a little bit so it's not quite as long. It doesn't need to be as long to fit on this page, and I did go ahead and use a hole punch to punch out the hole from the printed tag. And now I'm just looking at how I can back this, because having this sort of stripe on stripe is a little bit jarring to the eyes. And it was at that point that I kind of thought, I don't need to have a tag, I don't need to add more paper, all I'm doing is adding more busyness to try and force a tag to be able to fit. So I decided to just start adding my title, which are these gorgeous alphas in the kit. So pretty. I am adding them very lightly. I just want to make sure that I can get my title in here first and then decide whether it needs something else as well. So my title is going to read "But First Coffee," and then I'm going to add the word "always" underneath it, because it is always, really. And once I get that all down, I realize I definitely do not need a tag on there. The title takes up quite a lot of room. I don't want to add any more, but I decided I did want to add a third coffee cup somewhere. So I'm going to use my third little Spellbinders die. I want to do another coffee cup. I'm just not sure where I'm going to put that. So I'm adding a few tiny little embellishment pieces down here onto the left. Again, some of that washi tape, just trying to bring some of the elements from the right hand side over to the left. So I've used some of that washi tape and another of those little labels from the the die cut pack there. And I'm gonna create a couple more layered coffee cups. So I've used that Spellbinders die and done the same thing. I'm only going to end up using one of these, but I did cut two because I sort of thought at this point I might add one on the left and on the right. I don't end up doing that. So I've cut two from the pink and two tops from the white and just trimmed that down so that I can glue them on top. And it gives me my third little layered coffee cup here. That Spellbinders die did come with this other little coffee sleeve piece, and I really felt like it needed to be there to break up the pink. So again, I thought I was making two. I went and cut two more out of just white card, and I'm going to glue those on, and it just breaks up that really solid pinkness there. This is where I start playing with one. When I add it underneath my paper clip, I realize I definitely do not need the other one on the left hand side. I'm not attaching any of those things. I'm just going to leave them stuck under the paper clip. It's nice and firm. All my layers are there. I just need to add a date stamp eventually. But that is my finished page, and I super love how it turned out. This is a pretty different page to my normal style of notebook layout, but I really love how it turned out. I'm just so in love with this kit and all of these papers from the stamp market, and I love that I got to add so many different layers of that onto here. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you want to keep watching, there are a couple more videos on screen, or why not check out my Patreon page? There are oodles of videos over there as well. Otherwise, I'll see you next time. Bye!